So we are going to start the Nat lab today,
Okay.
and this will be a little, bigger configuration.
Oh,
So why don't you actually start the lab with me? And in the process, I'll explain. Okay.
okay.
Okay. So I have taken two routers. Let me just, create the diagram, and then I'll explain it to you what I'm doing. Hmm?
Yeah, yes, sure.
Okay. So at this point on the router, I require a additional interface. So I have to
Mm-hmm.
pull up one additional interface here. I'll switch it off first, and then let's say NM2FE 2W. Fine with this. So I got another two interfaces. So I'm giving the internal network as 10.0.0.0/24, and I'm
Yeah.
giving IP addresses to the species. I could have done it through DHCP also, but okay. And I'm assuming my DNS server to be 4.2.2.2. That's the public DNS server.
Yeah.
Now, these servers are there in the internet. One is for Google, one is for Yahoo. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what I will do here is I'll just I give IP address first. So 11.0. Yeah, of course they will not be in the same network, but for our lab purpose, we are just doing it.
Hmm.
And in the services section for HTTP, uh, we can actually change these things just for fun. So Google, and this guy is Yahoo, and he's 11.0.0.3, 55.255.255.0, 11.0.0.1, the default gateway, and I'll just close it. I'll go to the services. I'll just change the index.html. That's the first page you get. So I'll just say that it is Yahoo. And as I said, this server is this server is, I'm simulating this as public DNS server 4.2.2.2. Let me first give the IP address. Let's say his IP address is 4.2.2.2. Let's say 252, or let's keep it 0, doesn't matter. 4.2.2.1, let's say that's the default gateway. And now here under services, I will have to start the DNS. I
Yeah.
don't want DHCP service here, but I need DNS service. So I'll go to DNS, and then first of all I'll make it on because by default it is off, and I'll say that www.google.com is a record, and IP address is 11.0.0.2, and I'll add him. And then www.yahoo.com record 11.0.0.3, and I'll add him. Uh, so this is done, and then I need to configure this router. This is my service provider router. It's simulating service provider environment. Okay,
Yes.
let me write one more thing here, that this, when the service provider is he's getting an IP address from the when the our gateway router is getting this IP address from the public address from the service provider. Okay, then let's say that that public address is 200.0.0.1 slash, let's say, 29. Okay, I'll tell you why I have given this kind of address. And then one very important thing, I will give the last IP address of that network to this router, this side. So it will be 200.0.0.6 slash 29. Okay.
Yeah.
So 7 would have been broadcast address, and this is this one. So here it is. Now I can configure this. So would you like to enter initial configuration dialog? No. And then I'll go to the configuration mode. I'll give a host name. Let's say it is ISP. Interface fast Ethernet 0/0. 0/0 is this one. So IP add no shutdown. IP address 4.2.2.1 255.255.255.0. This is 0/0, and then exit out. Interface fast Ethernet 0/1, no shutdown. IP address 0/1 is this one, so it is 200.0.0.6 255.255.255.248. Of course, this side will not come up because on this side I have not yet made it up. I have not configured anything. So I'll go to the third interface 1/0. So interface fast Ethernet 1/0, no shutdown. IP address is 11.0.0.1 255.255.255.0. I'll give a show run here, and let me cross verify the configuration. So host name is ISP. There are three interfaces: 0/0, 0/1, and 1/0. On 0/0, I have 4.2.2.1. Actually, that is connected to the DNS server 4.2.2.2. and then on 0/1 it is 200.0.0.6, 255, 255.248. This is actually the interface which is getting connected to gateway router. And then 1/0 is 11.0.0.1, 255, 255, and my configuration looks fine. I'll just save it. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I'll actually move to my own router, my company router. And there are two interfaces there which I have to configure. No. Enable, go to the configuration mode. I'll give a host name as gateway. You can basically give whatever you want. Uh, and I'll go to the interface, fast Ethernet, 0/0. I'll say no shutdown. IP address, that's 10.0.0.1, 255.255.255.0. And I'll go to interface, fast Ethernet 0/1, no shutdown. IP address 200.0.0.1, 255 dot, sorry, dot 255.255.248. Save it. So if I say show running configuration, I just I have just configured IP addresses on both of my interfaces. One side is which is connected to my internal network, and one side is connected to the internet. So you basically can give a description also here, like interface fast Ethernet 0/0. I can give a description saying connected to internal network. And actually on interface pass Ethernet 0/1, I can give a description saying connected to internet. And in this way, if I give do show run, you can see the description in the interfaces. This is done up till this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So now at this point, let me test the connectivity. Okay. So I'm in the
Yes.
gateway router and I'll ping to one of my internal PCs, or better, I'll just ping to the broadcast address of my internal network. So 10.0.0.255. And I can see that 24563, 23456, everybody's replying, right?
Yeah.
So that means this side is fine. And let me actually ping to this IP address of the router. Okay, so if I ping to 10.0 no, so sorry, this is 200.0.0.6, and I'm getting a reply that's working fine. Now from here, let me try to ping to the IP addresses of Google and Facebook. Assume that I know the IP addresses, okay? So ping
Okay.
to 11.0.0.2. And this is where I am stuck, right? So I'm not able to
Yes.
send the packet. Let me look at the routing table, show IP route. So if I look at the routing table, I have seen that there are two networks. He knows about two networks. One is the 10 network, which is on 0/0, 200 network, which is on 0/1. And he doesn't know about those networks like, the Yahoo and Google. And he doesn't have a default network also, right? So what
Yeah.
I will do here is I'll give a static default route pointing towards
Okay.
the service provider. So I'll go to the configuration mode and I'll say IP route 0.0.0.0, 0.0.0.0, and I'll say send the packet out of fast Ethernet 0/1. Most of the time, you will not be knowing what is the IP address of the service provider, so you will just give your exit interface. Okay,
Okay. Yeah.
and now if I say show IP route, you will find that there is a default route. Okay, and it is telling that gateway of the last resort for 0.0.0.0 means for any network is
Zero.
okay.
Yeah.
So here, if I would have actually given instead of the fast Ethernet interface, I would have given the IP address of the next router. You could have seen the IP address here.
Okay.
Okay, but anyway, now let me ping to 11.0.0.2, and I'm getting a reply. Okay, if I ping to 11.0.0.3, and I'm getting a reply. Okay,
Yeah.
now what I can do here is what I will do here is that
Yeah.
I will give the DNS server's IP address to the router. Okay, the public DNS server's IP address to the router. In that way, he can communicate with this, servers through a domain name. Okay. IP name server. Okay. That means DNS server. DNS server's name is 4.2.2.2. Enter key. Okay.
Yeah.
And then now if I try with, if I try to ping to www.google.com, it should get resolved. And it is going to the DNS server.
Okay. Not
So
result.
it will take some time. Just hold on. Or yes. And it's working, correct?
Uh-huh.
Now that means my router is able to actually go there. There is no problem, correct?
Yeah.
Let me try from my internal PCs then. So if I go to this PC and try to ping, let's say ping to www.yahoo.com. So basically, he is not able to ping. And even if I try with 11.0.0.2, it should return request timeout. Okay, you can see that he is not able to ping. The IP address and everything is correct. There is no problem. Okay, the why it is so. Now, if you look at the IP, when my PC was when my router was actually sending a ping packet to, let's say, this IP address. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
what was the source IP address of the packet? The destination IP address was, yes, 11.0.0.2, correct?
Oh,
What will be
yes.
the source IP address? The source IP address will be the IP address of the outgoing interface.
Yeah.
Now, in order to get into this network, he has to send a packet out of this interface, right?
Yeah.
So the outgoing IP address will 200.0.0. Sorry, the source IP address will be 200.0.0.1.
Yeah.
Okay. So, which was perfectly normal, and the service provider has allowed it.
Okay.
Okay. Now, when I'm trying to ping from here,
Uh-huh.
what will be the destination IP address will be this only. But what
Yeah.
will be the source IP address? That is 10.0.0.2, right?
Yeah. Internal.
And
Yes.
this is the internal, and this is a private IP address. So
Yeah.
you assume that this router is blocking it.
Okay.
Basically, this router doesn't have any route to this particular network.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so
Yeah.
what we will doing in the NAT lab is this router, we will configure it, configure NAT here, and whenever he has to send a packet to outside world, this
Uh-huh.
router will translate the original IP address into this IP address and send.
Okay.
Okay, so it will get translated, the original IP address will get translated to 200.0.0.1, and this router is perfectly okay with 200.0.0.1. Getting my point?
Yeah.
And when the reply is coming back, it is coming to 200.0.0.1 actually, and he will have the NAT table built, and then he will change the 200.0.0 IP address to original IP address, and he will send it inside.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever we have done till now, we were actually making the setup ready for NAT. Now our NAT lab will start.
Okay.
Up till this, it is clear?
Yeah.
Okay. So now I'll go to this router. There are three steps in NAT. Okay. Step number one, you have to define your interfaces. So that means you have to tell the router that which interface is in the internal network and which interface is connected to internet. Okay. So for
Uh-huh.
that, I'll go to the configuration mode. Let's say I'm going to the interface fast ethernet 0/0, which is actually facing the internal network, right? So I'll
Yeah.
say IP NAT in enter, and then I'll go to the other interface, which is facing the service provider, interface fast ethernet 0/1, and I'll say IP NAT out. So step number one is done, defining your interfaces.
Okay.
Okay, step number two, what I will do is I'll have to create the access list.
Okay.
I have to create the access list, and inside the access list, I will allow IP addresses.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the router will NAT according to the access list.
Okay.
The router is going to NAT only. Router is going to allow only those people, or router is going to NAT only those internal addresses which are permitted in the access list.
Okay.
So let's say that I will permit the first four. So I'll create the access list, standard access list, IP access list, standard, and let's say it is for natting, right? So
Uh-huh.
NAT. Okay, let's say NAT permit. Okay, and
Yeah.
then I'll say permit host 10.0.0.2, permit host 10.0.0.3, permit host 10.0.0.4, and permit host 10.0.0.5. Now, if you wanted to allow everybody, you could have said any,
Yeah.
permit any. Okay, that would have worked. But I just wanted to show you something. So, you know, so now my access list is also ready. The
Okay.
third is the NAT command. Okay, the third is the NAT command. So I'll say IP NAT. If you want to NAT, what do you want to NAT? I want to NAT my inside addresses outside. I want to NAT the inside addresses.
Outside.
Okay, what is the source? Like, which IP addresses you want to you want to NAT. The source of the IP addresses is given in a list.
Okay.
Okay, the name of the list is, this is the access list.
Yeah.
As I remember, day before yesterday, I was telling you that
Yes.
access list is actually a list,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it so I'm telling that the name of the list is Nat permit, and it has to be natted out of interface, the outgoing interface fast Ethernet 0/1. Okay, enter.
Okay.
Now let's read this again. IP NAT. If you want to net, what do you want to net? That I want to net my inside addresses. You have defined the inside and outside, this one, right? In the
Yeah.
interface. And then what is the source? The source of the addresses which are to be natted is there in a list. The name of the list is NAT permit, and it has to be natted out of interface fast Ethernet 0/1.
Yeah.
Okay. Now,
Yeah.
if I say do show IP NAT translations, okay, nothing is there because as of now, nothing has been natted. So, what I will do is for the first time, let me go to this PC and I can go to a web browser. I'll go to the web browser and actually I can type www.google.com, and oops, it was a I should have put dot, but I have put shift dot maybe. That's why this symbol is coming.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll just, no, I'll rectify that. So, okay. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. That means now I'm able to access. And if I give the command show IP NAT translations, you can see that 10.0.0.2, the inside local address has got converted to 200.0.0.1, which is the IP address on 0/1 interface. Inside local is the private IP address, inside global is the public IP address.
Yeah.
Few of them are TCP and few of them are UDP, because these TCP packets are going actually to 4.2.2.2 to get the domain name resolved. Okay, then they
Yeah.
could know that Google's IP address is 11.0.0.2, and they have sent the packet to 11.0.0.2. Okay,
Yeah.
now this is done here. If I actually this PC actually was not allowed in the access list. So if
Mhm.
I try to send a packet, I can directly give 11.0.0.2. You don't require DNS then, and you are getting a request timeout
Yeah.
because he was not permitted in the access list and he's not natted. He is going with his own private IP address, and that gets rejected, that gets dropped. This
Yeah.
part is clear.
Yes.
Okay. Now, after a couple of years, your company has become little bigger, and what they have done is they have bought a server for themselves.
Okay.
Okay, and let's say this is a web server for your company.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give a, of course, it is not put in the same network, but here I'm just putting it. Okay, and let's assume that its IP address is 10.0.0.50, 55.255.255.0, 10.0.0.1, and it doesn't require a DNS server. But under the services, let's say my company name is xyz.com. Okay, under the HTTP, I'll just make some changes. Let's say this is XYZ, company XYZ, and I'll just save it. So this is my web server, and
Yeah.
now what I have done is I have gone to the approach the service provider, and I'm saying, listen, I require one more IP address. So earlier you have given 200.0.0.1. I'm using that IP address. My internal network is accessing the internet through that IP address, but I
Okay.
require one more IP address so that I can specifically assign it to the server for the server
Yeah.
purpose. Okay, so
Yes.
let's assume that the service provider has given you 200.0.0.2.
Okay.
Okay, so what I will do here is I will statically assign the public address 200.0.0.2 for this. Okay,
Yeah.
now in order to do static NAT, now you have to have NAT in, NAT out. Okay, IP
Mm-hmm.
NAT in, NAT out, that is already done, right?
Yeah.
I don't require list. Okay, that list is not required, but it is there for internal network. Let it be there, and then I have to write the NAT command. So I will say IP NAT.
Okay.
Okay, so I have to NAT my inside addresses. The source of the address, see, is now the source is not a list, but I will statically tell him. Okay,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
static, and then if I put a question mark, it is telling give me the inside local IP address. You have seen in the NAT table this earlier that inside local IP address means the private IP address,
Yeah.
and inside global means the public IP address, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's asking me to give the inside local IP address, that is the my IP, the private IP address of the DNS server. So 10.0.0.50 space, put a question mark. It's asking, please give the inside global IP address. That means the IP address to which it has to be translated.
Okay.
200.0.0.2 space, put a question mark, and just press enter. Now, if I say show IP NAT translations, you can see that there is a static entry here, right?
Hmm.
Now, one more thing I want to show you. I'll say clear IP NAT translations. Okay, so if I say clear IP NAT translations, oh, I'll have to put a star.
Okay.
And then if I say show IP NAT translation, you can see that all my dynamic entries have gone,
Okay.
but the static entry is still there.
Yeah.
Okay, this cannot be removed with the clear IP Nat translation and star command. This can be removed only if you remove that IP Nat command.
Okay.
So if I say show running configuration, and if I go down, you can see that I have given two Nat commands here, right?
Yeah.
One is, and there is overload, it has come. I have not given overload, but by default it has come. I'll explain that later on. Okay. So, and then you can see that this static Nat. This static Nat, if you want to remove that, a static entry from the Nat table, you have to copy this and
Yeah.
paste it with a no.
Yes.
Okay. Another thing is, whenever in a Nat command you use the word overload, it becomes PAT,
Okay.
port address translation.
Okay.
That means multiple internal IP addresses, multiple private IP addresses will use the same
Related to
public IP address.
okay.
Okay, but I
Yes.
have not given overload command here. But whenever you NAT to a particular interface, whenever you NAT to a particular
Interface.
interface, automatically it will become overload.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
Now I need to test it, right? I need to test it. So this web server is there for your, like, for outside people to access, right?
Yeah.
So that they know about your company. So what I will do here is I will put a PC in the internet, assume somebody from internet is actually accessing it, and I will connect it to this network only. Assume it is connecting somewhere in the internet, and I'll just give a IP address here. Let's say this is 11.0.0.10, 55.255.255.0, 11.0.0.1, and 4.2.2.2. Okay.
Okay.
And then the DNS server also need to be updated here. So
Okay.
I will go to this DNS server, and then in the DNS, I'll write one more record, that is www.xyz.com, and the IP address is what? 200.0.0.2, right?
Yeah.
And then let's check. I'll go to this PC, and I want to know about XYZ company, and I'll type www.xyz.com, and I'm able to get inside.
Yeah.
That means your web server is accessible, and
Mm-hmm.
second, public IP address is working. Now if I say show IP Nat translation, you will see that 200.0.0.2, actually, a packet came with a destination IP address of 200.0.0.2, and it got converted to 10.0.0.50
50.
because that was the static net.
Yeah.
This part is clear.
Yes.
Okay, imagine now I have two servers.
Okay.
Okay, imagine I have two servers. Okay, let's say one is the your what is that, web server, and another one is one more server. Let's say I just put one more server, and use the IP address 10.0.0.60, 55.255.255.0, and 10.0.0.1. And then you approach your service provider. You say, I have got one more server now. I require one more public address.
Okay.
But your service provider is saying, no, I cannot give you. You have to use your existing IP addresses only. So what will you do here is that the second IP address 200.0.0.2, you will use it for both the servers.
Okay.
Okay, in that case, you will have to take the help of the port numbers.
Yeah.
And then you have to remove the earlier NAT command, the static NAT, because you have
Hmm.
to rewrite it.
Okay.
I'm just copying it. I'll go to the configuration mode and I'll paste it.
Okay.
It is gone, and I will rewrite the NAT command. Okay, so
Yeah.
IP NAT inside source. I'm not giving a list, but it is static. And if I put a question mark, now I will use the port numbers. Let's say the first is the web server, so it will be HTTP. So I'll say TCP and give me the inside local IP address, that is 10.0.0.50 space, put a question mark. It is asking me what is the port number. So I'll say web server 80 and then put a question mark. It is telling what is the inside global IP address, that is the public address 200.0.0.2, and put a question mark. It is telling what is the port number. I'll say 80 and then enter. Similarly, again one more NAT statement. IP NAT inside source. Let's say it is TFTP. I'm just doing something, okay? Static,
Okay.
but TFTP, it will be UDP, okay? And then my inside local IP address is 10.0.0.60. That's the new server. And TFTP port number is 69. And it is going to same 200.0.0.2. And it is 69. Now, if I say do show run, look at the NAT statements. So I have used different port numbers
Mm-hmm.
and I'm using the same public address
Yeah.
to address two different servers, right? So,
Yeah.
and now if I say do
Attention,
show
please. Due to
IP
an
NAT
emergency, it is necessary to
translation,
evacuate the building. Please leave by the nearest exit. Do not use the lifts.
what is going on?
Attention, please. Due to an emergency, it is necessary to
Hello.
evacuate the building. Please leave by the
Fire
nearest
alarm is
exit.
there.
Do
Hello.
not use the lifts.
Huh? Now, you have understood the static NAT, right?
Yes.
Now, next we will be doing is, which will actually come in the exam. Hmm. So that is
Okay.
that we will be creating a NAT pool.
Okay.
Now, assume that you have been given, let's say, three IP addresses 200.0.0.1, .2, and .3.
Okay.
Okay, and we will be doing NAT pool. Now, in order to do NAT pool, we will remove the earlier NAT commands. Okay,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, I will just take the IPNet commands, copy them, paste it with a no.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then I'll just copy it. I'll go to the configuration mode and I'll paste it. Okay,
Yeah.
just to verify, do show run. Okay, so access list is there, but the net command is not there. Okay,
Hmm.
now what I will do is I'll create a pool. Okay, so I will say
Okay.
IP Nat Pool, and
Okay.
I need to give a name to the pool. Those are the public addresses, right? So I'll just say
Yeah.
public address, put a question mark. It is telling, give me the starting address of the pool. Let's say it is 200.0.0.1, and give me the last IP address of the pool, 200.0.0.3. Let's say 200.0.0.1.2.3 are given to you. Okay,
Yeah.
the net mask
Yeah.
is 255.255.255.248.
Okay.
Okay, and now you will write the NAT statement. So
Mhm.
what will happen now is I'll say IP NAT
Okay.
inside source. Source is a list. The name of
Yeah.
the list is, what was the list? The name of the list for
Mm,
this was net permit, right?
Net permit. Yeah.
And now earlier it was we were netting it out of the interface, right?
Yeah.
But I have a pool now, so I'll say pool, and the name of the pool is public address.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, space,
Yeah.
put a question mark, and there is overload, but let me do it without overload and let me see what happens, and then we will do it with overload. Okay,
Okay.
okay, so now without overload. Now just show IP Nat translations, nothing is there. Okay, so what I'll do here is I'll go to the clients, and I don't want multiple NAT lines, so I'll just directly use 11.0.0. Let's say 3. You're getting yahoo.com.
Yeah.
So if I go here, if I say show IP NAT translation, you will see that there is a statement here, right? 10.0.0.2,
Yeah.
it's using 200.0.0.1. I'll go to the next PC,
Okay.
and if I go to the web browser again, and if I say 11.0.0. Let's say, sorry, I'm directly using the IP address because if I use the domain name, they will again take time to resolve it and come back. And then there will
Yeah.
be multiple statements. So 11.0.0.2, let me go to the router, and if I put show IP Nat translation, you will see that 10.0.0.2 was using 200.0.0.1.
Yeah.
10.0.0.3 is using the second public address because the first public address is still busy.
Yeah.
Getting my point?
Yes.
Because there were multiple IP addresses in the pool. So let's go to the third PC,
Okay.
and here if I ask him to go to anywhere 11.0.0. let's say 3, he is able to access the internet. And if I go and put show IP Nat translation again, he will see that now 10.0.0.4 is using 200.0.0.3.
Yeah.
Now at this point, I have 3 public IP addresses, and all the 3 public addresses are being used up.
Yes.
Now if I say show access list, it will show me that there is one more IP address which has been permitted, right?
Yeah.
Which is 10.0.0.5. So 2, 3, 4, 5, and I assume this is 5. Let me verify once. Yes, it is 10.0.0.5. And if I actually go and if I say 11.0.0.2 is getting request timeout. Now,
Yeah.
if I go to actually show IP access list, you will see that hit is there. There is hit against 10.0.0.5. That means it is getting permitted, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But if I put show IP NAT translation, the problem is that all my previous IP addresses are already used up. Like all my public addresses are already used up, right?
Yeah.
So what I can do here is I can go to one of the PC and I can stop.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say his work is over. To speed up the process, what I will have to do is I will just say clear IP NAT translation,
Okay.
because this NAT information has to get removed. Clear IP NAT translations, I'll put a star. And now, if I go to this PC and I say go again, and he's able to go there. Can you see that?
Yes. Yeah.
And if I actually say show IP NAT translation, you can see that these people are also going, and actually, if you say go, and this also, and then if you see here, basically at any point of time, maximum 3 devices are able to access, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now what I will do here is show running configuration. I will rewrite the net command.
Okay.
This is the net command, IP NAT inside source, but with now this time I'll add overload.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll go to the configuration mode.
Uh,
Same command I'm pasting, but I will add overload. That means it will become fat. Okay.
Okay.
Now, even this guy will be able to access. So 11.0.0.2. Okay, I need to clear the nat table once. Clear ip nat translations and star, and then go. Yes, he's going,
Yes.
and I'll click here go. Okay, just to verify, I'll just change it and I'll say go. Yes, it's working fine. And the fourth member, let's say change it, and yes, everybody is able to access. And if I say show ip nat translations, you can see that everybody is able to access.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is